new setup, bumping knees and touching shoes and stuff. You're a little weird. So what's new? Anything?
Nope.
Same old, same old.
Yep, same old stuff. You?
Not much.
Yeah.
Same old. But yeah, today's topic's gonna be a pretty serious one. It's gonna be covering addiction. And with that, I just wanted to start off with, if you're addicted to anything, it's okay. So we're just gonna kind of go over different types, stuff that we've seen, stuff we've dealt with ourselves. We go over some, ways that we get out of it, or if we're still part of it, ways we're trying to cope with it.
Yeah.
So I'll have you start it off.
Yeah. So I'll lead today's podcast off with the Merriam-Webster's definition of addiction, because I think what we don't want to misconstrue in the podcast today is, you hear people say like, oh, I'm addicted to this show, or I'm addicted to going to Target, or whatever the case is. Like we're leaning more towards the, not the, the actual form of addiction, to where it's almost affecting the things inside you and the things like around you. So the definition is as follows: a compulsive, chronic, psychological or psychological need for a habit-forming substance, behavior, or activity having harmful physical, psychological, or social effects, and typically causing well-defined symptoms such as anxiety, irritability, tremors, or nausea upon withdrawal or abstinence, the state of being addicted. And then it goes on to explain, alcohol addiction, an addiction to prescription painkillers, drug addiction, gambling addiction, etc., etc. So, do you want to start off with kind of your side of it?
Yeah, so since I was a kid, alcohol has always been a part of like my family. So that was like, it was always around. And, growing up, like I never like tried it, excuse me, I never tried it or like any of that. I just seen it was like a norm. It was like come home Friday, someone cracks a beer, it was always a normal thing. And then I was about, I would say like 18. I think I graduated high school when I first wanted to try it. Because I noticed that everyone that I knew that was older than me had like that alcohol habit. And I was like, I'm gonna wait till high school in order to try it for the first time. And then I tried it when I graduated, and essentially once I joined the military, I kind of just took over everything, where everything kind of revolved around that. And addiction is a strong word, and especially still being in the service, it's kind of hard for me to be like, I was addicted to it. So I won't say I was addicted to it for the base of me still serving, but I will say I strongly consumed alcohol more than I should have. More than normal limit. Yeah. And it's, I base it on everything, like minus, I won't say the age that I was, like I graduated high school when I was 21, but I won't say the age that I, like officially started doing it, but it becomes a job, like trying to hide it from people, trying to do all this stuff, and like going to Europe where essentially you have a beer with breakfast and it's like okay,
right?
You know what I mean? So, I spent so many years of my life doing that like recently I was like, what am I doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could go to Class 6, grab my box of wine, my bottle of whiskey, and come home. And then finally the other day last month, I was like, I've been doing this for 8 years. I was like, golly. And it was every day. So, yeah. And it's really cool. I've been a little over a month, almost 2 months, alcohol free, which is crazy to me.
Congrats on that, by the way.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Which is crazy to me, but it's like a whole new light. Everything's so much more clear. I'm getting like good night's sleep, so I'm waking up like ready to go.
Right.
And it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's funny, but it's kind of funny that the other day I hit my snooze button. I'm so used to waking up in a panic and getting dressed, or whatever like that. The other day I hit my snooze button. Someone was like, "Oh, you slept in this morning?" I was like, "Yeah, I've been trying to catch up on 8 years of sleep." Essentially, I'd come home, drink, and then get the appropriate amount of sleep, and then go to work. But
What was the first time getting drunk was that experience like? And what did you like it? Did you?
Oh, it was miserable. My
Yeah.
my best friend at the time said that he was like the best cocktail maker, and for anyone that's ever had gin before,
Mm-hmm.
you could essentially put a droplet of gin in anything, and that's all you could taste.
Mm-hmm.
But he was convinced that he was the best cocktail maker. He made me a Beefeater gin and Mountain Dew, and it was the worst thing I ever had.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the weirdest thing. It's the same with like chewing tobacco. It's like the first dip's always the worst. Like, I'll do it again and try it. It's still gross.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes a norm.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. It's kind of weird.
And then I know you mentioned it a little in your story here, but can you give a little bit more context on when you acknowledged it to be a problem? Like what was the trigger for you to say like something needs to change and it's alcohol?
Well, essentially, it was like 5 years ago, where my best friend's wife pulled me in and was like, Jake, you got to stop. So I went and had therapy and stuff like that. And it just, stopped for a couple of days, and then it just back into the loop again.
What kept drawing you back?
I think it was just the atmosphere, how easily accessible it was, and the fact that I could actually purchase it, the fact that I could go to the commissary, get my dinner.
It's legal. You
It's
know?
legal. Go. Like, you know what? I could either in Europe at the time, I could either spend $1.50 on a bottle of water or 78 cents on a beer,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like it just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think the feeling of like, because that was essentially the first time I was like away from home.
Mm-hmm.
I think that kind of just made me feel like better during that time that I was intoxicated.
Yeah.
But, you wake up in the morning and you're still in the same life.
Yeah.
Essentially consuming alcohol should be a social thing, you know what I mean? But I was abusing that by just escaping where I actually wanted to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely can understand for sure. Definitely. 'Cause I've never been a big fan of alcohol myself. Wasn't raised around it. My parents rarely had it in the house. I think when we were maybe, starting like sophomore to senior year, the most alcohol that was in the house was like their little Seagrams, like wine cooler
Yeah.
slushies and stuff like that. And it would be after dinner, they'd go and sit and watch a movie or TV, and they'd be like, "Hey, go grab me and your mom one of the Seagrams." I'm like, "Okay," just grab it to them. But it was never really accessible in my house. My parents, to this day, I don't think my dad drinks at all. I think I've only seen my dad drunk one time in my whole life. My grandfather drank, and I would, with the confidence in the word, and I guess like the grown up in me would say like that he was an alcoholic, but I was never really around it. And I think I have an addictive personality.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the main reasons why I never dabbled, and the main thing for me is I just don't think it tastes good. In all honesty, I'll have beer occasionally. Like I think I had a couple beers. Like when I say a couple, I mean literally maybe two. Last weekend I watched the Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia fight, but as I'm sipping the beer, it's not a tasty experience. Like I don't think, and I'll go with confidence in saying, I don't think any alcohol like tastes good. If you catch my drift.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't know, I kind of just grew into it. But I don't think essentially it was like, at first it was like the taste for me. Like I was like, and you start mixing with stuff, and it was like, you start being able to just shoot it straight, and you realize like it's less effort, and you try to like transform in your mind. You're like, well, if I do it without soda, maybe it's a little healthier, and it's not.
Yeah.
It's like the worst thing you could possibly do.
Yeah.
And like it was so weird for me too, because it's like at that time I was like trying to focus on like my health, because I eat so clean.
Right.
Like, I eat like, essentially I was a vegan for a very long time,
Mm-hmm.
but it was like I never really lost weight or got to like where I wanted to be, because it was like Irish whiskey does a lot to your body.
Yeah. What are some other addictions that you think that you have, or vices?
I would say nicotine,
Same.
as there's a little Zimbabwe in my mouth right
A
now.
little Zinachino.
Yeah, but I think for right now, me being that 1 month in. I think just kind of substituting some type of, you know what I mean, some type of thing.
Yeah.
Because what I have noticed too is I've been eating a lot more sweets,
Like candy.
like those vegan cookies and stuff.
Oh
Like the
yeah.
other day I bought 2 bags of these like vegan, organic, grain free, like made from a pine tree cookies. And I ate 2 bags of them. They're not even that good either.
Yeah. Antler, made of antler and
Yeah,
deer.
literally just complete garbage.
Mhm.
It's just one of those things where it's like, it's kind of strange coming home now and like filling out my big mason jar full of water,
Yeah.
put a little meal in there,
Yeah.
I'm just drinking it. And I will say 100,000,000% that this podcast does help, because this podcast does take a lot of time.
Yeah. Get your mind off of it and stuff like that. Yeah. You're definitely more. For those of you guys that don't know, I would say this relationship we have with the podcast is probably 70% Jake, 30% me. Like he's the one that edits all the TikToks and the videos, and he does all the uploads and stuff like that. I'm not gonna take credit for that at all, but he definitely pulls a lot more weight in it than I do. So how much would you say, being in the Army, and obviously for anyone in the Army knows how prominent alcohol is in our day to day. How much of a role do you think that had in your addiction?
Oh, that probably is the one that transpired it the most, because you have essentially a kid that leaves home,
Yeah.
and as soon as he becomes of age, or essentially hanging out with other people that are of age,
Drinking.
it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
And like your brain is still getting developed.
Yeah.
So it's like once you start finding those things that you're getting used to, it's like people are used to going, you know, to work and then coming home and having a beer or two,
Mm-hmm.
or drinking whatever amount,
Yeah.
and the next day the same thing. Because it's like essentially you're like, for me, like I left home by myself, and like the one, like I didn't, like it was just me, so I'd like want to hang out with people, you know, they're all drinking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just kind of brought like a home feeling to me.
Yeah. You don't want to be the odd man out and not drink.
No.
And then even being in those situations, like I think as a human being, some people are better at it, but we're all in some way like susceptible to peer pressure. Like you go to an outing, let's say it's like the smoke pit at Bliss. It was like there was a smoke pit with like tables by the basketball courts outside our barracks. Like, you know, you're doing your laundry, you see some of the guys out there, guys and gals out there getting drunk, vaping, doing the thing, and like, oh, you know, am I gonna be the barracks rat today, just go in my room and just wait for my laundry to get done, or am I gonna try and socialize down here? That you make that decision to try and go socialize, and they're like, oh, have a beer, and like, oh, well, you know, I'm underage, and you know, fuck, have a beer. Well, I don't really drink. Don't be you know what, drink it and stuff like that. And then now you're kind of just like, you know, which isn't a good thing, and that's not like a knock on anyone in particular or the Army as a whole, but you know, Jake hit on it, and I think alcohol is a social drug. You know, like it is a drug. But I think it's a social drug, and it can be abused just for the sole purpose of the sole fact that it is so accessible. You get 21, and then even for me, like when I turned 21, I drink, you know, a lot, or my fair share before I turned 21. But being able to walk into the Class 6 or the liquor store and be like, I could buy everything in the store, like, you know, and then you almost get to like experiment a little bit. Like, well, I've never tried, you know, this kind of alcohol, or I've always heard about this kind of beer, or I've always heard about this kind of whatever, or, you know, you get to experiment.
And they make it sound so good too.
Yeah, the commercials.
Raspberry slush puppy.
Yeah. Well, the beer commercials make it seem like
1,000% alcohol.
Yeah, exactly.
Go blind.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
And then like, even like all like the tequila commercials, or like you see like the recent like Modelo commercials. It's like, this is the hard working Hispanic beer. Like it's the most one I know, like watching the playoffs and stuff. It's like a Hispanic family with like somebody's grandma's like making handmade tortillas, and then she cracks open a Modelo. It's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, it's just crazy how like, and it's insane to think about alcohol in particular. It's almost presented to the American as like the working person's thing.
Yeah.
Like, you're a hard worker, you earn this. Like even like Michelob Ultra, like the healthy beer. There's a commercial for Michelob Ultra, like they finish running a marathon and they go home and they crack open a Michelob. Like, that's not the first thing I want to drink when I finish a marathon, I want a Gatorade or water or go to sleep. Like I don't want to drink a beer after I just ran a marathon. But
yeah, this big guy driving a Ford truck with a beard,
with
gets home,
getting craps open a Budweiser.
Baby's crying, smashing a Bud Light.
Yeah,
Be American.
Yeah, it's insane how it's presented to us at such a young age too. Like you cannot turn on television, cable, whatever. I have YouTube TV. You can't turn on TV without seeing an alcohol commercial.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
And then like those people that like kids are looking up to, like The Rock. I'm not knocking The Rock, but like his new tequila.
Yeah.
People want to try that.
Yeah. Yeah. To include myself, I tried it just because it was his shit.
Maybe I thought it was like,
I hate tequila to begin with. Even thinking about it just makes me want to gag.
But there's other forms. Like obviously, like alcohol was mine, but there's like caffeine, tobacco, shopping. I guess shopping. You being a shoeaholic.
Yeah, that was definitely like an addiction I had for a while for a really bad thing. I don't think I gave the whole story in the podcast either, but I was so broke as a private. Like I would have, after we got paid, I would go spend, like at the time, I think my paycheck, like the PB2 was like maybe like $900. And I would spend about $600 or $700 on it, on clothes the next day. And it took my team leader, Sergeant Hooper, he's a staff sergeant now. Well, he wasn't a sergeant at the time, but he's a sergeant now, staff sergeant now. And he's like, hey, let's go to lunch, man. And like the typical work, hey, let's go grab something from the PX. I'm like, I can't. He's like, what do you mean you can't? I'm like, I'll drive you over there. I'm like, I can't afford it. And that invite to lunch turned into a lecturing and a day out of it. He's like, okay, no, motherfucker, we're not going to lunch. You're gonna log into your Navy Federal, show me your bank statements and show me your list because this is a problem. And he talked to me. I went to financial classes and stuff like that, and ended up getting a lot better. But all the things like that, nicotine, caffeine, pornography, like a lot of stuff that is just so easily accessible to us, to where it's, like, what do you do with your time,
Like you seen that like one meme, it's like the military starter pack. It's like a new car, can of Copenhagen, Bud Light.
Yeah, it's probably a vape now.
Yeah,
and we both, me and Jake, both for a while now have quit vaping. You quit way before I did. I still occasionally hit a vape here and there, but I switched more to
I was going down the other day, I seen someone, I was, what flavor is that? Is that lasagna? And he's like, no, it was a red one. It was like a blue bear. I was like, why is it red? And I wanted to, let me hit it, but I was like,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, it's insane. And I would say a lot of addictions come from too much spare time. Would you agree?
Yeah, 1000%.
Like not being able to really apply yourself to doing something more productive than drinking or vaping or whatever it is. Like, rather than drinking, why don't you go to the gym, or why don't you go read a book, or why don't you, whatever.
Yeah.
But
that's when I kind of found out I had such a problem. It's like waking up in the morning and I'm like, my day-to-day, I just can't wait home and like go home and have a drink.
Mm-hmm.
Or like even when I'm working out, like I just want to go home and have a drink.
Yeah.
It's like, it's crazy. I couldn't even watch an episode of The Office without having being like drunk.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's everybody, especially here. Everywhere you go in the military, it's like everyone. It's just so normal.
Yeah.
And like you don't really think about it until you just have one of those moments where it's like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah. And unfortunately, it sometimes it takes like tragedy or something really wrong to happen before it's like a eye-opening thing. Like you luckily just kind of had a lapse, or not a lapse in judgment, but a passing of judgment to be like, yeah, I can't keep doing this. But some people that maybe aren't, I would go as far as saying that maybe aren't as mentally strong as you or mentally mature as you, it might take them to get a DUI, or it might take them to get beat up in a club, or it might take them, just saying something or doing something egregious while they're drunk to be like, damn, like I fucked up and I can't be doing this anymore.
Yeah. And that is like, it's also like advice for those that, like, I'll get into a different episode, but like my mom passing, all my family, like, just passing or, doing all like,
yeah,
all I want to do is just escape that reality.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's what that addiction is.
Yeah.
It's just, you want to escape whatever you're dealing with.
Yeah.
But like even when you consume whatever your addiction is, it's like you're not escaping it, you're just thinking about it more.
Yeah, and it's almost just like you're pushing pause on your life in that moment, but then when you push play, it's just you're gonna feel
Everything's
like
still there.
shit. Yeah, like it.
Like if you're broke and you have no money and you're like, I'm just gonna get drunk, forget about it, you're gonna wake up in the morning and still broke.
Yeah, still broke and just
$30
hungover.
more.
Yeah, and then now you're probably hungry, and now you want like McDonald's, and then oh shit, well, I'm broke. I shouldn't have gotten drunk last night. Damn, now I want to get drunk again because my life sucks and stuff like that. Yeah. Did you see it like affect like your friends at all? Like, did your friends like not want to be around you, or were you just like totally surrounded with people that were just like on board with the shit?
It's kind of a bit of both. I would say like my military friends really didn't like care because we were all drinking. But like you go back home, everyone's used to drinking like beers. Like you come over with a bottle of whiskey and a box of wine. They're like, oh, it's Tuesday, dude. It's like I'm on vacation.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy to me.
Yeah.
Because it's just like even going back home because like I'll have a beer with my father or whatever like that. But like that's all he drinks.
Yeah.
He doesn't really drink that much anymore. Not like my brother, just beer. But like when I'm bringing over whiskey and wine and more whiskey, you know,
Yeah.
I'm like, well, this is what I do.
Yeah. Because I think
I'm like, beer's unhealthy. Here's a bottle of whiskey.
right. I think even for me, I don't know if I mentioned it in the podcast, and if I have, I apologize, because I know the other day on shift I listened to all the podcasts that were updated on the Apple, and sometimes me particularly, I kind of repeat myself with stories, and for that I apologize. But the story I'll give is like when I kind of had a falling out with my friends, I guess their version of addiction. You know, I'm pretty sure they won't listen to it, and they probably will give some sort of reason and excuse on why they did it. But when I came back from deployment, granted, my friend group, we were really good kids. Like none of us did any kind of drugs. Like the most we did was drink on occasion, but it was rare. It was like once a month. The cool mom of my friend group would get like a 30 rack and a thing of Jack Daniels, and we'd go across the street and get drunk, and just a bunch of dudes just doing dumb kid shit, beer pong, and just getting drunk and then walking our ass across the street and going to sleep. But when I came back from deployment, all my friends had started smoking weed. I'm like, oh, this is weird, you know, like you guys weren't doing this before I left. Like I thought, like, you know, we all just played Xbox and vaped and did, you know, kid stuff. Just hung out. Like, oh, you know, it is what it is, blah, blah, blah. You know, and I'm not very susceptible to peer pressure. I think I'm not. So I would still like be present when they would smoke and stuff like that. At the time I was smoking cigarettes or vaping or whatever it was. They would smoke their weed and I'd just be chilling with them, you know, hanging out. But it just got really uncomfortable at times. I'm like, I really don't want to do this. And I stopped enjoying their presence high. And I told them, we had many arguments and many conversations before it kind of stopped. And the communication with them to this day is non-existent. But I had a conversation with them on the ride home because I was always DD because I didn't smoke or anything like that. And I was like, I don't enjoy you guys' presence high. I like you as yourself, not drunk or high. Oh, well, you know, you would understand if you were allowed to smoke. And I was like, no, I think I understand right now. Like, even if I were to smoke it, I like who you were when you didn't do this. But the tipping point for the relationship with my friends is like, I came back from deployment, and we were going out, and I was always DD, like I said. And before I put my car in reverse, I turned around and was like, hey, do y'all have weed on you? Like, yeah, duh. I was like, I'm not taking y'all in my car with weed.
Yeah.
What do you mean? And I was like, dude, I can't do it. And I'm like, why not? It's like, well, we get pulled over for whatever reason. They search the car for whatever reason, or it smells, and then we get searched, and then they find it. Like, my entire career is just down the drain now, and you guys will go home to your parents' house and get lectured and pay a fine, but I can't go back to my dad's house, like, especially with something like that, and my career's done, and now I have nothing. Like, this is the only thing I had. I don't really have a plan B. And they're just kind of like, well, man, like, oh, okay, well, you know, whatever, we'll put it away. And then I started getting invited less and going out less, and, you know, and then when I went to the border mission in California, it kind of just completely stopped. I came back and nobody answered the phone, nobody answered text messages. I was like, oh, okay. But I still follow them on social media, like, even to this day, but every weekend they're pissed drunk at the club, getting high, and I'm like, all right, well, you know, enjoy you, but I can't. Like, I can and I don't want to.
And just one day they're gonna wake up and be like, what am I still? Like,
You know, I don't know. And I try and call every regular. Like, it's I find myself doing it every time I get a haircut, because my haircut guy is maybe like 20, 30 minutes away. And I'll literally just push the little Siri button in my car and I'll say, call this person, calling, and then nothing. Call this person, nothing. Call this person, nothing. Call this person, nothing. I'm like, all right, well, I'm trying, you know. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that my friends are just like strung out addicts and that's the only thing they have going for them. It's just kind of putting into perspective that life will go its own way, and sometimes like the people around you will change. I mean, I never thought that I would be sitting in a friend's house doing a podcast that I met a couple of years ago. You know, I would have thought I would have been doing other random stuff, but obviously it goes to show that, you know, unfortunately, like, friends come and go, and like hobbies and interests and even overcoming addiction comes and goes.
yeah. And if you find yourself like either being addicted to something and or knowing somebody, don't like, obviously Mike put forth the effort to like reach out to him and do everything like that. They just decided not to, but don't like let that person go.
Right.
Even if they've been doing everything right, they just go home and do whatever. Don't like abandon them.
Yeah.
Because then that will essentially transpire them to do it more, do
Yeah.
sleep, whatever they're doing.
You know, the ostracizing people for their problems, you know, like we see it a lot in the Army too.
Yeah.
Like you see those individuals that are going through things, whether it be mental or whatever the case is, and then they come back and it's like, oh, did you hear about Mike? Like, you know, and then they kind of like brush over the situation, but then it feels something that I was going through. I'm almost feeling like a level of like excitement to go back to my regular life and see my friends and see my coworkers, but then I'm going back to what I thought was normal, and then it's not, because they've already had this preconceived like idea of like, oh, he's problematic, or oh, he's an addict, or oh, he's whatever. I'm like, no, like, I'm still me. I'm going through shit, you know.
Yeah. And it's okay too.
Yeah. I think it's all about, I think we'll kind of move on to like kind of like the next portion of it. It's just how like you manage it, right? So I think any addiction is manageable. Like, everyone has a vice. If you listening think you don't have a vice, you have a vice. You have a form of addiction, whether it be, you know, social media shit. I mean, that's, you know, like we mentioned before, like you scroll on TikTok for like 6 freaking hours. I find myself, I sit down on the toilet to take a shit and I'm on there for 45 minutes. Yeah.
Like the Eminem song.
Yeah, palms are sweaty because I'm scrolling through Instagram Reels. I don't have a TikTok, but I'm scrolling through Instagram Reels to the point that, and my wife's like, "Are you home?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in the downstairs bathroom taking a dump." Well, I'm not really taking a dump. I'm just on Instagram. But just about managing stuff, you know, it's difficult, but you have to find ways to manage it. You know.
And I would say like one thing that I noticed, and when I found out that I had a problem, was like Theo Vaughn, one of the funniest people ever.
Hilarious.
Great podcaster as well. But like every time he would talk about him getting sober from drugs or alcohol, I would always skip the video, or whenever something popped up that was like, to get over alcohol, I would always skip this. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, that's not me. I'm not addicted.
And that's why it was like hard for me to like, you know, I want to talk about this, because I know for me, like if I was scrolling through, you know, the podcast that I follow, if they were going to talk about something like that, I wouldn't listen to it.
Yeah.
Because it makes you realize that what you're doing isn't really that.
You realize like, because it's like the perspective of like, damn, like that hits home, and that
He's talking to me direct.
Yeah, like that he's talking to me. Like, that's me. That's what I'm going through.
But I would say, like, obviously we talked about in episode 8 having hobbies, trying to find something new. Luckily, this podcast is my new hobby. I just spent so much time between this and college. You know, I just forget about everything that I used to do.
Yeah.
Negative that I used to do, and I just find myself like working on stuff until I get tired.
Mm-hmm.
Like the other day, I was editing these clips to upload. I was like 4 hours in the bathtub. I take baths every day for those who don't know that.
Got all prune.
Yeah, I was essentially like a prune in there, but that was essentially my vice, was this podcast, and then like once I like a couple of weeks in, I was like, now I can start thinking more clear. Let me hop into this college exam, and I was like doing these exams, you know, shout out Jedi, but yeah, it makes you think so much more clear.
Yeah.
But it's also like with that, like I don't drink right now. And, you know, maybe later on the road I'll be with my dad or like that. But like, I found myself the other day. I went to a bar with one of my friends, and I ordered iced tea. That was the first. I was like so weird. I called my brother the next day. Like, I went to the bar last night and had iced tea. He's like, "Oh, good job."
Mm.
And then, like the other day, we went on one motorcycle ride, and I'm not gonna say with who because they had beers there, but we were sitting there. We went out to dinner. Everyone's having a beer or a drink.
Mm.
Sir, what do you want? Just a water's fine.
Mm. Yeah.
And then I don't eat. We went to a burger spot and I don't eat cheeseburgers. And I was like, yeah, just a water's fine.
Yeah.
I was like, it's so weird because that was the day that fight was on.
Mm.
Old me would have been home with a bag of Chex Mix and a bottle of two or more dudes just partying for no reason because I don't care about it, but it was an excuse.
Yeah. How much of addiction do you think ties into anxiety?
I would say a lot. I would say like, I don't know. It's just like, using my brother as an example, like he has like panic attacks, certain areas like that, and the thing to calm him down was just having a beer.
Mm.
And I found myself doing the same thing. Like when I got back home from deployment, I was driving to actually drop my dog off somewhere to get like groomed or something like that. And this is like the first week or so I was back from deployment, and my heart started racing really bad, and I pulled over and I couldn't breathe. I almost called the ambulance. I was having like a panic attack.
Mm.
I called my brother. I was like, "What's going on?" He was like, "Welcome." I was like, "Damn."
Mm.
I think just me being gone for so long, coming back to actual normal like civilization, that anxiety. Like,
Yeah.
First thing I wanted to do was whip that truck around and go have a beer.
Yeah, because I think for me, I don't know if it's the same for you. I think my company told us that we weren't allowed, quote unquote, allowed to drive 7 days after we came back. Like, it's like we don't want you behind the wheel of a vehicle for 7 days, just to that anxiety that on the road, and
It's insane.
yeah, like someone cuts you off and you just want to like
Freak
destroy
out.
them.
Yeah.
Like it's, I would say anxiety ties a lot as well, because even someone that is addicted to something, that level of anxiety, because they use their addiction to manage their anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
But then when they acknowledge that maybe this isn't healthy, now they're anxious to feel the way that they would on whatever substance it is. And then it's just like, well, if I can't get it this way because I know it's unhealthy, like how am I gonna feel better? And they're just kind of like scrambling, like, okay, let me sit down and try and watch a movie. Oh fuck, damn, like I want to get drunk, and stuff like that. And it's like a constant, for lack of terms, like it's a battle, like a battle of addiction. It's never ending, honestly.
Because you find those, like, talk about the tattoo episode, just that pain for a little bit.
Yeah.
And like, I never really thought about it until now, but like, you post on like your Instagram story, Facebook story of like, essentially what you're doing at the time, like, having like a beer at the beach, right? So you post that, and people comment, "Oh, so jealous." But after like the fourth or fifth time, people don't comment on it.
No.
You're essentially like promoting like what you're doing to other people.
Yeah.
And after the first couple, like they don't care about it anymore.
Yeah.
Like now that it's so normal for me to be in a tattoo chair, like I take a picture with Jack while he's tattooing. No one's like, "Oh, what are you getting?"
Yeah. There he goes again.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with drinking too. Like if you know someone's a drinker, and you see them out and they're drunk, like there he goes again.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to like someone that doesn't really drink, you're like, oh, what the, really? You go like, that's okay, cool, good on you. But I think probably, the most prominent addiction other than alcohol, because I think that's more of like an exclusive, not exclusive, but it's definitely more prominent in the Army. But probably social media is probably the biggest one that I can think of that isn't like a substance, isn't like an actual thing, like the anxiety of this idea of I need to post something to make the people that follow me think that I'm happy, or think that I'm having a great time, or I want people to see that I'm wearing this or doing this. Or like one of my biggest pet peeves, nothing against people that do it, one of my biggest pet peeves is people that go to the gym and post that they're in the gym.
Oh yeah. No title location.
Yeah, it's just super cringy. Like
check in time.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
today.
clocking in, on the grind, flex emoji, whatever the case is. It's like, well, that in my opinion, which I'm entitled to, that's almost a version of anxiety, because you're expecting people to either A, acknowledge you in this action, or B, you're trying to make sure that everyone knows that you're doing this. It's not for you, it's for other people.
Yeah, and it's for that, like, you look good, dude.
Yeah.
Because what was that? I'm gonna try to tie Drake into every podcast now.
Jeez.
Wasn't that one of the Drake songs? Was like, she was in France at the Eiffel Tower posting pictures. Now she misses home or something like that.
So, yeah, I don't know if it's the exact verse. I know which.
You know what I mean?
It's along the lines of like, the girl he's talking about went on vacation, and now she's posting it, like she's using the pictures from a month ago, and she's not even in Paris anymore. Yeah, I know what verse you're talking about, but it's so true.
It's so true.
Like I have social media, and the most active I've been on social media is in the past couple months, just promoting the podcast.
Yeah, literally.
But like, if you go on my Instagram is at Champagne Scoob. You know, tying Drake a little bit more. Drake's Instagram handle is Champagne Poppy, and mine's Champagne Scoob, because my nickname in high school was Scooby. But that's for a different time. But there's no pictures on my Instagram.
I noticed that too.
Yeah, I deleted them all. And on my Snapchat, I'll post like videos of my daughter, because I think Snapchat's a little bit more selective. I do enjoy that, because like, in order for you to view what I post, I have to actually, like, you have to follow me and I have to follow you. So I'll post pictures of my daughter, like funny videos and stuff like that, or I'll post on my story on Instagram like funny memes. But
to me now it's just like a check in. And I didn't even think about it, but my personal name is Scooby Doo. Where are you?
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. But it's kind of funny because now that like I'm older, those social media platforms are really essentially just to like show people back home. And like my brother's so funny. I'll text him something and he'll respond text on Snapchat. Like, he won't even text me back on iMessage. I just have all these things on iMessage and he responds on Snapchat.
Yeah.
But like today I made a post, for my promotion was to thank Sergeant Major, and then bring my family into it, like a long post. But it's like I do care what people say, but like essentially like what I post now on like Facebook and stuff is for like people back home who don't know like where I'm at or what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But like I don't. If you look at my comments and the likes are all from like 60-year-old women or 60-year-old men that like were friends with my mom or dad.
Yeah.
That are like doing good. Thanks for your service to this country.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like if you're using those, and another great example I think I talked about before is like those soldiers that like never leave the barracks, that do one trip and they still post about it like years later, like miss this place.
Take me back.
So you didn't even like it there. You're only there for now.
Yeah.
But I think that's an addiction too. Is like that, not that thrill, but like that praise.
It's dopamine.
Yeah.
If you really think about it, it's dopamine. All the addictions that me and Jake have talked about at a scientific level, if you really want to get into it, it's all dopamine. Like, you're getting drunk because you want to chase that feeling of dopamine. Like, we mentioned it like off the podcast, like, oh, I'm drunk at a club, I can say this thing to this person and he or she may like it. And if he or she doesn't like it, then I'm drunk anyway and whatever. Or if he or she does like it, then okay, cool, then now I'm in, I can get a number or a follow back, or I can laugh a little bit harder at this joke, or someone will laugh a little bit harder at my joke, or hitting a vape. You get that head rush for 15 seconds. You're like, damn, like I want to feel that again. Or you post that picture because it was really, I had an Instagram and a Snapchat before I deployed. This is like to talk about the social media thing. I had a Snapchat and an Instagram before I deployed, and I deleted them both solely because no one was acknowledging me the way I wanted them to acknowledge me. Because like I had, not a flex, but like I had like 1,000 something followers on Instagram. A lot of them for like people that I went to school with. And in my mind, I'm like, you guys are doing regular ass stuff back home, and I'm out here like taking a cold shower for 4 months. I have to walk to the shower. By the time I get out of the shower, I'm sweating to go back to my room. I have a TV and like 3 outfits that I wear. I don't have internet. I don't have food. And then like I'm out here struggling. And then when I post something, I don't get any kind of acknowledgement. And I'm out here serving my country. Screw y'all. I deleted all my platforms. But I think that goes to show that I had a problem. Is like, what am I really doing this for? Am I doing it for the viewer, or am I doing it for myself? And at
And
the
then when
time,
they do thank you, sorry. And then when they do thank you, you're like, oh, you don't thank me. Or, that's
right,
all you wanted,
exactly.
you
Like, I wanted someone to acknowledge like my, almost like in a way like suffering, and when I didn't receive it, I was like, okay, well, screw y'all. And I think that even goes like into like a level of like almost like alcoholism. Like, I want to almost in a way like suffer a little bit more, so that way I can get some sort of like reconciliation of like, hey, like life sucks. Now I'm sucking and I'm drunk, but it feels a little bit better. And then now I can go to sleep. And then the next day it's like, well, fuck, like I'm still here. I'm still present in this moment. Like, it's the same thing on deployment. Like, yeah, I want you guys to acknowledge me, but I'm still waking up in the same twin size mattress in a chew by myself, like eating the same thing for breakfast for 8 months. Like,
Yeah.
still sucking.
And it's sad too, because like you see like, you know, the beautiful men and women that like are always about that Instagram. Like they don't get 10,000 likes, they'll delete it and then go through body transformation and stuff like that. Do people really liking it? Do they actually really like it?
No.
Because like what we talked about before, like if you really like my stuff, you would have texted me last week to be like, hey, what's up, brother?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I think, and I was the same way with Instagram, especially traveling throughout Europe. It's like, you know, being a small kid from Maine, it's like me being in Croatia, like people should be, yo, you know what I mean? No one cares.
Yeah, like, oh, you're deployed? Like,
Oh yeah.
oh wow, like that's crazy. Like, how interesting. You want me to send you a care package? Like, oh my god, you know.
No, don't send me a care package, doesn't matter.
Yeah, here's my PO box.
No, I don't need any gummy bears.
Yeah, I love zebra cakes.
Yeah, that's funny.
So what would you, other than hobbies, because we wrote it down here, what are some ways to manage addiction?
I know
Other than just getting another addiction?
I would say it sounds kind of cliche, but accept it.
Acknowledging it, yeah, that's the first step.
Acknowledge, or not accept it, but acknowledge that you do. You know what I mean? I don't think many people know, but I attempted to stop drinking a couple months ago. And after the first week, I'm not going to say it was because of that, due to me actively serving, but I ended up in the hospital because my body was essentially like going into shock. And the nurse that was taking care of me, I was like, I think I'm getting sick. She's like, getting sick, huh? And I was like, yeah. She goes, when's the last time you drank? And I was like, last week. She said, okay. Like she knew. And then when I left, she was like, I'm actually like, she said like 10 years sober or something like that. But she was like, it's okay. And all my tests came back fine, like liver was fine, like that. But yeah, I like tried it at first, couldn't do it. Then it just hit me one day, I was like, it just stopped.
Yeah.
And essentially, like depending on what your addiction is, I will say it's not safe to just completely stop it.
Cold turkey. Yeah, it's harder that way too.
And it's harder that way, and it's kind of you know hard on your body. But it kind of made me realize that like, you know, I spent 4 or 5 months in marriage school, 6 months deployed. Like I'm used to not doing it for a long period of time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like during that like you come into my house, like you see like my candles are lit and everything. Like my house looks very, very nice. Like, it smells good.
Yeah.
You don't smell it, or you don't like the smell. Neither does your wife.
I like the smell. It's just strong.
Whatever the way. But essentially, like this is like my area. People are like when they come home, like they're so surprised and how like neat and clean and everything.
Yeah.
But it's like you gotta remember, like I spent a lot of my life in the worst places and the worst experiences. Like I want to come home to peacefulness.
Yeah.
And that's what like having that drink was like.
Yeah.
I'm home now, I'm safe.
Yeah.
But in reality, it wasn't. Essentially, I was in my own prison because every time I come home, the first thing before I took my boots off, you know, pour 2 fingers of whiskey, take a breather, and it just, yeah. And finally, just accepted it.
Yeah. I'll say another healthy way of managing it is being comfortable to talk about it.
Yeah.
Like acknowledging is the first step, absolutely, but maybe taking it upon yourself to just talk to someone you trust about it, you know. And me and Jacob mentioned it in the previous podcast as well, like who you actually surround yourself with. Because let's say, for example, you're not surrounded by really positive people that are having like a positive role in your life, and you're going through something mentally, like an addiction, and they brush it off, and then now you're in a position like, well, damn, like, I guess maybe it's not that serious. Like maybe I just keep drinking or whatever. But if you surround yourself with good people, maybe, just maybe, like, they'll be like, hey, like I'll quit with you, or I'll go to like Army, bring it back to Army, like I'll go to ASAP with you or something like that, or I'll go, like, let's go to the house and dump it all out, or let's not go out next weekend, let's do this instead, or whatever. But just talking about it helps a lot too, because like a lot of people just brush off like any kind of problem, like with injuries, bills, like getting your safety renewed on your vehicle, like, oh, I'll get around to it. I'll get around to it. Or grocery shopping, like, oh, I'll just eat top ramen today. Like, I won't go grocery shopping. And then it's like, well, it's gonna come back to you eventually. Like, yeah, your top ramen is gonna run out, and you're gonna have to go anyway. So you might as well just go right now. Or like alcohol, like, hey, like, this is really, I'm putting essentially like poison in my body. Like, when will I address this, now or later, when it's like actually like messing my body up,
And I will say, like, with me eating so healthy and everything like that, like, you would think like I wouldn't have a little gut or like, main meat up top, but you know what I mean? The first week I stopped drinking, I lost 10 pounds.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But to like kind of tie it into the other episode that we talked about, was like a subtle flex too, like the college, like, oh, sorry, can't go out tonight in college.
Yeah.
Like, you going out with like your normal group of friends, and be like, no, I'm not gonna drink tonight.
I'm not drinking tonight.
It's like, yeah, I got stuff to do tomorrow. Like, no, I'm good. Or,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I haven't drank a couple days, man, I'm good. It's kind of one of those things that people are like, damn.
Like, wow, okay. Yeah.
And it's okay. Like, I would say, like, me talking to, my therapist when I was in Germany, like, breaking down crying, and her, obviously, like, my mom's passing, but and other stuff, kind of just all tied into it. But like, talking to somebody, and that's why I stress to people I serve with, like, even if you're having like a minute problem that you think is a minute problem, whatever problem that is a big problem to me, because it's affecting you somehow.
Yeah.
So just talk to somebody, and then like you're gonna see that like it will help. Like, you don't talk to me about it, that's completely okay.
Of course.
But like for instance, having the addition of like alcoholism, being like, you know what, I am drinking too much, to a person you don't know is very, very hard to do.
Yeah.
Knowing that they're not even judging you because you're not the only one, but just like, I actually do have a problem. Because then they're not judging you. Like, you think they are, like, but they're not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They're just giving you like a realistic perspective that you had not thought about up until that moment.
Yeah.
And like addiction as a whole too, like everyone likes to think that their problem is bigger than someone else. Like, oh, you wouldn't understand, or you don't know what I'm going through. It's like, well, like if everyone thought that way, then everyone would just be non-productive, just horrible people,
Yeah.
Like, I think I mentioned the analogy before. It's like, if everyone threw their problems in a pile, and it was a free-for-all to get your problem back, and then someone took yours, you'd be like, damn, I want mine back. Like,
Yeah, that's a crazy quote.
I want mine back. Like, you pick one up, it's like 7 kids, 1 job, middle of Chicago, mom is absent, so on and so forth. It's like, damn, like, where's my team leader sucks, I want that one back.
Yeah.
Or my leave won't get approved, like, where's that problem? Like, I want that one back,
And to think about that too, like, growing up, like, my father and my stepmother were always well off. I wouldn't say wealthy, but they were good. That we had everything we ever wanted. But every time I go to my mom's house, it was like, what are we eating for dinner? Like, we're going by the food cupboard and stuff like that. But it's like, now that I'm on my own, and I'm like, you have that freedom to just do whatever you want. Like, if I wanted to just put in leave and go to Thailand, go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
But I think about like the problem my mom had. Like, it's insane.
Yeah.
Like, whatever you think you're going through, I can 100% promise you there's someone going through it 10 times worse than whatever.
Yeah. And usually it's people you wouldn't even imagine. Like, some people that I talk to, because I'm very open, maybe a little bit more than I should, but I don't really mind it. I'm very open about my mother's passing and how she passed, and I give the perspective to my soldiers as well. Like, hey, like, I went through this at 19 years old in my first 2 months in the Army. Like, I'm not discrediting your problem, but my problem does have a lot of weight behind it. And I'm look at me now, like, I'm successful to an extent. I have a happy family. My career is thriving. I'm still very young, et cetera, et cetera. Like, if I can do it, you can do it as well. And just talking about things like, like you said, everybody has problems. Everybody has freaking problems. But you can't get anywhere thinking that like nobody cares, because somebody cares. It's just a matter of finding them.
Yeah.
And sometimes it comes in the most random of places, and it's usually from people that don't even, you really didn't even expect it.
Yeah.
It's just managing anxiety. Like my daughter has had an accident. I haven't spoken on it on the podcast before, but on Easter, my daughter's fingers were like cut off. Not the whole digit, but from as an adult, if you're listening, if you look at your fingers and you go from the tip of your finger to the first line, the break line, whatever you want to call it, in your finger.
The first knuckle.
Yeah, the first knuckle. That's gone on my daughter's middle and ring finger. One of the most traumatic experiences I've ever had in my entire life. Like, but on the point that I'm trying to make it, managing stress and anxiety, it's like I could have very easily been unmotivated to go to work. I could have been like, I can't do this, I can't, you know, and I'm not trying to use my family as a crutch, but I could have been like, I need to be, I'm not mentally present, I can't, but what is that going to do for anybody? Like, I still have a role to play, just like anyone listening, no matter how small you think your role is, like you still have a role.
And it is okay to do that too.
Of course, like talking about it. Like I talked to it in great depth with, in reality, the only person that I should have talked to about it is and was my wife, and we had very lengthy conversations about just that happening. And it was just a freak accident. It was it wasn't like anybody's fault. It just, what happened is a table fell. We believe that the table pretty much fell right on the fingers, and then with the pain, I think my daughter just kind of snatched her hand from under the table, and it kind of just took it.
Knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah, and just took it off. So like we weren't in our conversation, it wasn't like with anxiety, with addiction, what tends to happen in my experience is like with alcoholism, for example, sometimes people like blame things like, oh, I drink a lot because I have problems, or I do this because I'm trying to manage this or whatever. But my wife and I weren't saying like, oh, well, you should have been watching her, or you should have done X, Y, and Z. It's like, okay, well, it happened, but we didn't even talk about like, okay, how are we going to prevent this from happening again, because it was a freak ass accident. It was just like, okay, we're acknowledging this right now. Are you good? Are you mentally good? Not really. Okay, well, we're going to be. Like even my daughter now, my daughter's fine, if anyone cares or whatever. My daughter's fine. She has a cast and she's totally normal.
It was a full body cast, yeah, the PX had it.
Yeah, not a body cast, but an arm cast. Yeah, it looks like everyone thinks that she broke her arm, but they do the whole arm for toddlers just because they get in everything, and it fell off like last week or so. She was in bed and I was laying down watching TV with her, and she turns and her hand's out of the cast, and with her hand that's missing the little bit of finger, she looks at me, she's like, uh-oh. And I was like, yeah, that's uh-oh. that is an uh-oh. We gotta go to the hospital.
Yeah, you got the duct tape.
Yeah. I literally just wrapped it. I went downstairs. I went in my garage and got in my IFAC and got like gauze, wrapped it, taped it, and just put one of her socks that doesn't have a pair over the hand and just taped it. And then she was...
Hemostatic adjustment expired in 97.
It's
quick clot.
Yeah. And I just wrapped it up, and then she got it recasted. But
just imagine if you were like blackout drunk at the time.
Yeah, and then even with that being said, like on Easter, right? I wasn't not drinking for a reason. I think I had one beer, but yeah, imagine if my wife and I both would have like taken advantage of the opportunity to get drunk, and then we're both just all the adults there just pissed drunk and just not being able to react. Because when it happened and I heard the crash, I kind of like went over there. I'm like, oh, okay, kids broke something or whatever. And then, not to sound graphic or to make people listening like turn off on it, but my daughter was just looking at her hand, screaming. The blood's like everywhere. So I'm like, oh shit. So I like not try not to sound like stoic, but I literally was just like, okay, I was like as calm as I could. I was like, get some paper towels, and then everyone there, nothing against like the women that were there, but the women that were there were kind of getting ballistic or whatever. Oh my god. Give me the paper towels, grabbed her fingers. And then everyone's like, what are we supposed to do? I'm like, call 911. And then literally I'm holding her finger. My daughter was not happy. I don't think she was going through it like pain wise, but I think babies just don't like being restricted.
Yeah.
And I was holding her fingers like I would hold a grown person's fingers to stop bleeding. So I'm not being gentle with my daughter as far as stopping the bleeding. And then my other friend that was there, the friend of mine, was like, what do you want me to do? I was like, just put Bluey on. Bluey's like her favorite like cartoon, like her TV show. I was like, put Bluey on the TV. And then she was cool. And then I just walked up and down the block until the ambulance came. And then we kind of went from there. But just as far as that goes, the point I'm trying to make is like, you don't allow things that have already happened and you will never be able to go back to affect the future. Because if that's the case, then if we want to go to that kind of perspective, like I would not be sitting here, you would not be sitting here, or anyone that you really experience. Because in my personal opinion, I don't think true leaders can be great leaders without suffering.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I've met anyone that I respect as a leader and admire and mentor or model myself to be after. Excuse me. And they haven't experienced some level of suffering. And I'm not saying that's a necessary. I'm not saying you cannot be a great leader without, experiencing suffering, because I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. But having that in your experiences in the past and still being able to process things and go about life positively and use that more of like a learning tool rather than a crutch, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's a powerful thing.
We could go a little hour too. I mean, it's no big deal.
Yeah, for sure.
People are listening.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's just, everything is just so great.
Yeah.
Like when I was in the senior leader course, I saw one of the soldiers I was in Germany with, and like, the only time I've ever saw him outside of work was one morning. I woke up in the middle of nowhere, Germany, with no shoes, no coat, in the middle of winter. I'm walking back barefoot the cobblestone to a train station. Damn son, where's your shoes at? Sometimes you just gotta send it, boys. And like during that time, like that was like cool. Looking back on it, it's like, what the fuck was I thinking?
Fucking idiot. Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was just completely just out of my mind that entire day.
Yeah.
And it seems cool when you first do it. Like I said, like those people are in college, right? And then you join the military. You guys are essentially doing the same thing. The only difference is you're wearing a uniform and you're just, you know what I mean? Like you're still drinking, still partying. But like once those college kids go out of college, they're not doing it anymore. And you find yourself still doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like what you think is cool is no longer like cool.
Yeah.
But then that's what, like, unfortunately I was black holed into the thing where I just kept going and didn't ever realize it.
Yeah.
And then like to think about it too, it's like, you think about it, like a bottle of whiskey is like $27. A box of wine is essentially the same price.
Yeah, if not cheaper.
One of those every couple of days. I was only in class 6 like 4 times a week.
Yeah.
So that's crazy.
Yeah.
And like what's crazy thing about it wasn't just for, I was doing that every day for like 10 years.
Yeah. In retrospect, I think like someone that would try and sway you is like, well, technically, if you're spending $50 a week on alcohol, what if you invested that money? Like, what if you put it towards something, and then you're just kind of like, well,
I'm investing into them so I keep making it.
Yeah. Yeah, that is my investment. Anheuser-Busch or something.
Yeah, especially now we do Bud Light cans, it's a big controversy thing.
Yeah, that we will not get into.
People are like, invest now because the stock market's going down.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know. It's just, I'm not saying to stop drinking, but like, when you find yourself only thinking about that, when you find yourself like revolving your day to day around that, like, okay, if I go to the gym in the morning, this is essentially what I was doing. I was planning in my mind. Is if I go to the gym in the morning, right, and then I go grocery shopping, that gives me from 1 o'clock until 2200 to drink. Right, perfect.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, if I wake up in the morning, have a mimosa, I'll be a little bud, go to the gym, you know what I mean, work it off, and then come back and do it.
Yeah.
That's how you know you're like.
Yeah. Even the point I think is really good as well, and what I would really want people, like I think I have like a message as like a person, I feel like I talk about a lot, is just having control of your own actions in your life. Like, and it's a difficult concept to really think about, but like you make every decision, whether it be sound or whether it be irrational or spontaneous. Like being able to control that in those moments is what's going to define you, or who's going to define you as a person. Like for example, like I'll mention like my mom passing as well. You know, without giving too many details, like, you know, every fucking thought went in my head. And I'm sure it went through the same thing as you, like everything from very extreme things that you could imagine, or very like what the fuck am I gonna do now? Like, but what can you do? The only thing you can do is just control what you do. Like, sure, I could have easily like gotten alcohol and just gotten pitch drunk. I could have easily just gone to my friends that were smoking weed and just gotten high to try and get over it. I could have easily just like gone to my union and be like, hey, I don't want to be here anymore, just turned into a piece of shit. But I didn't, and I'm not saying that as like, I'm not saying that as a flex. I'm not saying that as like I'm better than anybody else, but what I'm capable of doing, everyone is capable of doing. You know, just like techniques and just managing your own mind and training your mind to be efficient, like under all circumstances. Because what people like to imagine is like, oh, I want to, and this is a way of thinking of it as well, I want to structure my life to be as stress-free as possible for my own sanity. Well, that's not good. In my opinion, I want to be stressed out. So when I can make those decisions under stress, now when stress is not involved, I can make an even more sound decision. Okay, cool. I'm managing, like, I'm still a squad leader. I'm managing 8 other personalities that are very conflicting to my own at times, but what can I do? That's it. I have to do my job. And then now when I bring that back to my own household with my daughter and my wife is another personality I cannot manage. And I'm not saying that her and I conflict, but yeah, there's, everyone that you care about, like, it's unrealistic to think like, oh, all my friends think the same exact way as I do. All the people that I care about think and feel about the same things that I feel about. No, like, have some stress. Like, put yourself in stressful situations. And then when you get out of those stressful situations, whether it be Ranger School, whether it be college, whether it be managing 8 other personalities or whatever echelon of leadership you're in, like, when you get over those things and you actually you can look back and be like, yeah, I think I did the right thing. That matters. Not trying to take the easy way out or trying to mitigate, like, oh, well, this is easier. Like, it's easier for me to get drunk than to not just think about what happened yesterday. It's easier for me to get high and forget about today. Like, no, think about it. Let that shit fester in your mind to where, like, now that you've given it more healthy, clear thought, what are you gonna do tomorrow? Mm-hmm. What are you gonna do next week? What are you gonna do next month? To where now you've used that more like fuel rather than a crutch, like I said before.
Yeah, taking in those challenges or that's advice too. Like when I was I don't think I talked about it all, but when I was in Colorado, I was accepted into the University of Colorado's nursing program, right? But I deployed and they didn't get to do it, and they came to this wonderful place we call Hawaii, and they don't have the opportunity here, but they were like, so what's your plan once you get your nursing degree? Nothing. They went to the hospital, and I'm like, nope. I was like, I just want to be able to know exactly what nurses do, so if I ever see someone that needs the help, I can just do it.
Yeah.
But taking those challenges, like me doing the criminal justice class. Mm-hmm. I have no ambition to work law when I get out of the military. I have no ambition to do anything. Mm-hmm. But at least knowing kind of what they know and like
right.
It makes your brain bigger. Because I think knowledge and education is very important to me. Just knowing things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's my new current addiction is podcast in college.
Yeah.
And if anyone's listening, just like if you want to know more about one thing or the other, shoot us a message and we'll talk about it. We really haven't been getting too much comments and stuff like that. But
yeah, it's kind of like fizzled away. I mean, once we started giving out the stickers and stuff, people kind of
come off the woodwork.
I think in the moment they're like, oh, here's my topic, which is cool. But definitely, I just think that I believe that human beings are capable of phenomenal things, but once you kind of acknowledge that there are things in everyone's life that your life can be that much more efficient if you just cut it off, whether it be people or a vice or an addiction, it's much more satisfying, like knowing that I stopped doing this and I feel better. Yeah. I stopped eating for me like vaping. Like I stopped vaping and now I can take a deep breath and it not hurt, or I can run and I, you know, don't feel like I'm gonna collapse along, like, or just stuff like that. And like alcohol too, like something else we haven't mentioned really about alcohol. Like I don't, a phrase that my dad told me to convince me to not drink was, I think if you, on your deathbed, if you thought about your 10 most happiest, memorable moments of your life, none of them will involve alcohol.
None.
Not one. And that one to me is like, damn, like you're right. Like for me, some of them, like my daughter being born, me getting married, promotions, graduating schools and stuff like that. Granted, I'm only 25, so hopefully I have a lot more life to live, but and I think that's very true. Like, yeah, it's cool to go out and socialize and stuff like that, but like, you don't have to do it drunk. Like some of the best moments and conversations that I've had, even to include the ones here, granted, because me and Jake have recorded, there's a couple podcasts out there that him and I are quite intoxicated and they're not good to listen to. They're a good conversation, but they're not good to listen to. But I think a really fun night, and it sounds, some of you listening may chuckle or even find some sort of amusement in this. I think a really fun night involving friends and family to me is like grilling something, good food, football in the background, games are over, pull out like a game or two, and then just socialize, just talk, like get to know someone more, like just actually like building stronger relationships. Because if you only know someone, if every time you go out with someone they're drunk, you don't know who they are, and you'll never get to know them unless you actually either A, sit across the table from them with a chessboard, a camera, and 2 microphones, or you just actually get the time and just sit. Like a lot of good conversations I've had, I'm sure you can agree, like, you know, like during like platoon duty days and nothing's going on, just sitting in the office talking to like your leaders, like Starfish classes and PL, just shooting the shit, talking about stuff that you would never imagine you talk to these people about.
Yeah.
Because you really get to know people better.
So that like drunk conversation where you're like arms around that.
Yeah. Oh man, dude, I fucking love you, man.
Dude, you're so dope.
Oh man, dude, like, dude, I would die for you, bro. Like, I wish I would fight. You know, like no, like.
Like the 10 years of my life, the last 10 years of my life, a lot of them have been like that.
Yeah.
And it's so weird too, because it's like I've seen people that are like, yo, what's up, man? Who are you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I was funny story before we ended this. I went to a ball once in Germany, and I was very intoxicated. Well, a couple of weeks go by, and I'm in the commissary. I'm in like the frozen food section. I think I was buying like shrimp or something. And this dude and his wife and their kid, he keeps looking at me. I'm like, maybe he saw me like looking at his wife's face or something. And he just keeps looking at me, then he follows me down the frozen food section. So I'm like opening the shrimp door, and he's like standing there. Hey, what's up, man? He said, hey, what's up, man? He said, you don't remember me? No. He said, you tried to fight me at the ball. And I was like, oh, shit, my bad. Grabbed my shrimp and laughed. And I was like, you know what I mean?
Sorry about that.
Yeah, what happened again, dude?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't have anything of you. Is that crazy?
Any other crazy drunk stories?
Or anything you want to add to this? This thing essentially be broken up into a 2-part. I kind of want to see what the people in the audience have to say.
You know, I think the stupidest drunk story I have was my 21st birthday. And I think typical 21st birthday fashion is we went to the clubs and I was not allowed to have an empty drink in my hand, and everything was like bought for me. And the night ended with me army low crawling around my friend's house with my shirt off and just like saying like nonsense. I'm not even gonna say what I was saying or what I was doing at the club, but that was like kind of one of those moments to me. It was just like, hey, like, yeah, maybe this isn't for me. I tried it, 21st birthday, first time doing it legal. I'm not doing this again.
For those who know me, it kind of put me in the spotlight real quick. The best way to describe my time in Germany was, if you ever seen the show Shameless, I was essentially like Frank Gallagher. I found myself like waking up in bushes, waking up places I had no idea.
Yeah.
Bus benches.
Yeah, my wife wants me to watch that show really badly. That's the dad, right?
Yeah,
the deadbeat.
Yeah, and all his family.
Yeah.
It's a good show, but you know, essentially, and that's what people started comparing me to, and I was like, bro, it's not really a good thing
Yeah.
to do, especially being a leader in the military. Like, maybe that's not shape up.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that now I can talk about it and not feel like
Ashamed. Yeah.
because essentially, like, you know, now it's like not promote, but essentially promote issues for others to be like, okay, maybe that's one of mine, and then get over whatever it is,
Yeah.
and promote success. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The past is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. And today's a gift. That's why it's called the present.
Yeah.
You know what that's from?
Mm-mm.
Kung Fu Panda.
Really?
Yeah. But it's true though. It holds a lot of weight. Yeah, so I think I'll cap it off with, you know, everybody has some sort of addiction and vice. You know, either A, acknowledge it and don't allow it to be something that changes who you are in your personality, or B, acknowledge it and just remove it from yourself entirely, or do your best to do it entirely. Treat yourself with pride, your body, what you put into it, and what comes out of your body. You know, your words and your actions and stuff like that. Not anything weird, but you know, just seek help if you do feel like it applies to you in any which way, shape, or form. The Army has programs like ASAP, SUDC, and to be super Army. If you guys that don't know, if you have an addiction problem and you go to ASAP and you self-referral, if you self-refer yourself to ASAP, there is no repercussion, there's no flagging, you're not going to get kicked out, nothing like that. So it's you trying to seek help for yourself. I'm not too familiar with SUDC, really don't know. Same concept. But you know, and surround yourself with good people. You know, if you find yourself in situations where everything you do and revolve yourself around socially is drinking, then maybe you need to change your friend group a little bit. Maybe try and play checkers or buy PlayStation, you know, or chess.
If anyone wants to play chess, come over and play a game. I mean, like the Queen's Gambit of chess. You guys want I want to end it with two quotes, two of my favorite quotes. One of them is, "A person's greatest success is a stepping stone from his greatest failure."
Yeah.
So like whatever you think that you're like failing at, or whatever you think that your addiction is, like it will come. Like your success will come if you're not already successful. And then another one, you know, that ties into this. I just want to say it. Another one is, for those who know about candles, a candle's greatest strength is during the time of most darkness. So whatever you're dealing with, whatever dark place you're in, like, just be that candle.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's deep.
I want to say I made that up.
I made a quote up too, and no one believes me that I made it up.
Really?
Yeah. I said all the time at Karma, I said the absence of action is more deadly than making the wrong decision.
That's a good one.
You know, like not doing anything is more dangerous than doing something wrong.
What is your favorite quote of all time?
My favorite quote of all time is, "I walk light so I don't piss the ground off."
That Drake?
It's Lil Wayne.
I didn't say Lil Wayne.
No, my favorite quote of all time, man, I don't know. I don't know it verbatim, but it's a Denzel Washington quote. It's pretty much,
I think I'm just gonna see it.
no, it's pretty much, it's not his quote, but he does say it, and that's like the first time I saw it, but it's along the lines of, one of the next podcasts I'll actually read it verbatim, but it's, with that, dreams are just dreams, and without motivation, you'll never start. Without a goal, you'll never start, and without motivation, you'll never finish. Something along the lines of that. Dreams are just dreams. Pretty much say, like, if you don't apply yourself, you can have all these ideas, but if you never act upon it, you'll never even get what you want.
Yeah, that's a good one, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, once you figure out exactly.
Yeah, exactly what it says.
I would say my favorite quote of all time is the Abraham quote. It says, "Instead of complaining that rose bushes have thorns, rejoice because thorn bushes have roses."
Mm-hmm.
Deep.
You know, or another quote is Rosa Parks, and the quote is "No," which she didn't say.
So just
No. All right, yeah, I think we'll wrap it up with that. Y'all have a good night. Thank you for listening. If you listen, more to come by all means. Kind of what we got going on is I actually got hats for really myself and Jake, but we'll kind of we'll wear them, see how it goes, and then we'll kind of sit down and talk numbers as far as, you know, if we want to make more or how we're going to get more in mass. And then for those guests that we do have planned, we're going to probably get a hat or a t-shirt or something like that. But thank you guys for listening.
Yeah, if you have one of those stickers, slap it on something and send us an Instagram photo of it. We'll tag you, give you a big shout out for supporting the Pretty Six. But
yeah,
we appreciate it. Y'all have a good night. We'll talk to you soon.